bisection method. So in this method we are going to solve this equation, that is fx is equal to x cube minus 4. And first of all, as the equation is given but the interval in which its root lies is not given, so questions like this in which interval is not given, we have to find the interval in which root of this equation lies. So this can be done with the help of trial and error approach. Means we have to find the values of x for which this function fx is positive at some x and negative at some x. We have to find 2 points, 2 values of x at which it is positive for one value and negative for other value. So by trial and error approach, let's take x is equal to 0. What we will find is fx is equal to f0, that is x cube minus 4, which will become 0 cube minus 4, that is minus 4. So negative value means at x is equal to 0 the function fx is negative. So take another point, say x is equal to 1, that is we will find f1. So put 1 cube minus 4, that will be minus 3. So it's also less than 0, that is negative. So at point 1 it's also negative. We have to find a point where its value is positive, that is x is equal to, we take another one value, say 2, we will find f2. So that is 2 cube minus 4, that is 8 minus 4 is equal to 4, which is positive. Greater than 0 means positive. So at this point value of fx is negative, at this point the value of fx is positive. So closest point are these two, 1 and 2. So we will take 1 and 2. One point is 1 and second is 2. So it means the interval in which we want to find the root is 1, 2. So this is the interval. The root of this equation must lie between 1 and 2. So now let us start iterations one by one. So first of all, iteration 1. So in this iteration we will take x1 is equal to 1 and x2 is equal to 2. The interval which we have found in the previous calculation, that root lies between 1 and 2. So this will be, we will take x1 and y2. So the next step always is to find midpoint of these two values. So we will find x3 is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2. So we have to add 1 plus 2 divided by 2, which is 3 by 2, means 1.5. So it means we have got x3 is equal to 1.5. So value of x3. Now find the value of fx1, that is f of 1. So which we have already calculated in the previous step. So that is that will be equal to, and f of x3 is equal to f of 1.5, which you can calculate by substituting in the equation, that is 1.5 cube minus 4, which is equal to 3.375 minus 4, which is equal to minus 0.625, which is less than 0. So fx1 is less than 0 and fx3 is less than 0. So because fx1 into fx3, fx1 into fx3 total value will be greater than 0, because fx1 is less than 0, fx3 is less than 0, so total value is greater than 0. So always we have to use this rule, which is if fx1 into fx3 is less than 0, then x2, value of x2 will be that of the value of x3, means x2 takes the value of x3, otherwise x1 takes the value of x3. So in this case fx1 into fx3 is greater than 0, means second wala else wala part you will execute x1 is equal to x3. So x1 is equal to, therefore x1 is equal to x3, which is equal to 1.5. So value of the new interval will be x1 is 1.5 and x2 is 2. So only one of these two values will change for next iteration. So value of x1 will become 1.5 and value of x2 will remain the same as 2 in the next iteration. So we will start the iteration, next iteration 2, by taking the value of x1 as 1.5. Take x1 is equal to 1.5 comma x2 is equal to 2, and you have to find x3, that is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. Perform the calculation. 1.5 plus 2 divided by 2. If you divide this, you will get value of 1.75. 1.75. So you have x3 is equal to 1.75. So find out the value of fx1, which is same which we calculated in the previous iteration, that is value of fx1 is minus 0.625, minus 0.625, which is less than 0, and value of fx3, that is f of 1.75, because value of x3 is 1.75. so this calculate this from the equation 1.75 the cube minus 4. If you solve this, you will get 5.36 minus 4, 36 minus 4, which is will be equal to 1.3593, 1.3593, which is greater than 0. So you see fx1 is negative, fx3 is positive. So you have to always check values of fx1 and fx3. This is positive, one is negative, other is positive, so multiplication of these two will be negative. So because fx1 into fx3 is less than 0, therefore we will, from this rule, if fx1 into fx3 is less than 0, we will change x2 is equal to x3. Now we will change the value of x2, that is 1.75. so we have x2 is equal to 1.75. value of x1 remain the same and value of x2 will change. So new interval will be 1.5 comma 1.75. so this is for second iteration. So in second iteration we will take next third iteration we will take x1 as 1.5 and x2 as 1.75. so iteration third, take x1 is equal to 1.5, x2 is equal to 1.75. so calculate x3, which is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. so perform calculation on these and you will get value as 1.625, 1.625. so x3 is equal to 1.625. so find f of x1, which is f of 1.5, which we have already calculated, which is minus 0.625, minus 0.625, which is less than 0 means negative, and f of x3, that is f of 1.625 is equal to 1.625 cube minus 4. so if you calculate this expression, you will get value as 0.2910, 0.2910, which is greater than 0. So 1 is less than 0, fx1 is less than 0, fx3 is greater than 0, so total multiplication will be less than 0. So because fx1 multiplied by fx3 is less than 0, therefore we will less than 0, x2 is equal to x3. So x2 is equal to x3. Value of x3 is 1.625. 1.625. So now you have x2 is equal to 1.625. The value of x1 remains the same, 1.5. Value of x2, new value is this. So we have a new interval as 1.5 comma 1.625. So for next iteration we will take these two values of x1 and x2. So next iteration is iteration 4. So in this we will take x1 is equal to 1.5, x2 is equal to 1.625, and x3 we will calculate by x1 plus x2 divided by 2. We will perform this calculation and we will get 1.5625. 1.562 as value of x3. 1.562 and 5. So again calculate f of x1, which is f of 1.5, which will be the same minus 0.625, which is less than 0, and f of x3, which is f of 1.5625. So put this value in the equation, 1.562 cube minus 4, and its value, if you perform the calculation, its value will be minus 0.1853, minus 0.1853, which is less than 0. So both values are less than 0. fx1 is less than 0, negative value, fx3 is less than 0, so multiplication will be positive. So because fx1 and fx3 multiplied together is positive. So see the rule, if value of fx1 into fx3 is less than 0, x2 will change, otherwise x1 will change. Therefore x1 is equal to x3. x3 is this value, 1.5625, 1.5625. So you have new one x1 as 1.565. So x1 value, this will change, but this will remain the same. So new interval is 1.565 comma 1.625. So this interval will be used for finding the next interval, or you can say for the next iteration in iteration 5. So in iteration 5, take x1 as 1.5625, take x1 as 1.5625 and x2 as 1.625 and calculate x3 as x1 plus x2. It is this one is always midpoint of x1 and x2. Its value will come out to be 3.1875 divided by 2, that is 1.5938. 1.5938. So this is the value of x3. So f of x1, that is f of 1.5625, this value we have calculated in the previous iteration, and it's equal to minus 0.1853, minus 0.1853, which is negative. F of x3 is equal to f of 1.5938 which we have to calculate by equation 1.5938 cube minus 4, and if you calculate this, it will be equal to 0.481, which is greater than 0. So one value is negative, fx1 is negative, fx3 is positive, multiplication will be negative. So fx1 multiplied by fx3 is less than 0. Therefore, if this is less than 0, value of x2 will change. So x2 will take the value of x3, which is this 1.5938. So this is the value of x2. So x1 will remain same. New interval is 1.5625, comma x2 value is 1.5938. So these two values will be used for next iteration, which is the iteration number 6. So take x1 is equal to 1.5625, comma x2 is equal to 1.5938, and calculate x3, which is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and which comes out to be 1.5782. So f of x1 is f of 1.5625, which we have already calculated in previous, minus 0.1853, which is negative. F of x3 is equal to f of this value 1.5782, which is equal to 1.5782 cube minus 4, and if you calculate it, you will get minus 0.0695, which is also less than 0. So because f of x1 and f of x3 is greater than 0, it's greater than 0. fx1 is less than 0, fx3 is less than 0, so fx1 into fx3 is greater than 0. So by this rule, if fx1 into fx3 is greater than 0, x1 will change. x1 is equal to x3. x1 is equal to x3, which is equal to 1.5782. So the new interval will be जो हमारे पास 1.5782 x1 the value, and x2 will remain the same, 1.5938. So we will take these two values in the next iteration, which is going to be 7th iteration. So in 7th iteration, take x1 is equal to 1.5782, and x2 is equal to 1.5928, and x3 will be x1 plus x2 divided by 2, which is equal to 1.5855. So f of x1 is f of this 1.5782. Take from previous iteration, it is minus 0.0695, which is less than 0, and f of x3 is equal to f of 1.5855, which is equal to 1.5855 cube minus 4, which is equal to minus 0.0144, which is also less than 0. So both are less than 0. Multiplication will be greater than 0. fx1 fx3 will be greater than 0. So if it's greater than 0, then x1 will change. Therefore x1 is equal to x3, which is 1.5855. So the new interval will become 1.5855, comma, the value of x2 will remain same, 1.5928. So these two values will be taken as value of x1 for this value as x1 and this value as x2 for the next iteration, which is 8th iteration. So take x1 is equal to 1.5855, 1.5855, comma, x2 is equal to 1.5928, and x3 comes out to be 1.5892, 0.5892. So f of fx1 will be minus 0.0144, which is less than 0, and f of x3 means f of this value 1.5892, which is 1.5892 cube minus 4 comes out to be 0.0132, which is greater than 0. So 1 is less than 0, 1 is greater than 0, multiplication will be less than 0. fx1 into fx3 is less than 0. So therefore x2 is equal to x3, means we will change the value of x2, 5892. So our new interval will become 1.5855, comma, 1.5892. So in the next iteration we will take this as x1 and this as x2, but if we see the first 3 digits of this and first 3 digits of this are same. If we want answer correct up to 2 decimal places, then we have received. So we will stop here. We will say x is equal to 1.58 is solution of the equation. So in this